Another scary story, and this one comes from Pakistan. So a couple weeks ago, I was using my phone at night in bed while scrolling through TikTok, and I heard my mom calling me from downstairs. I was kind of confused why she's calling me downstairs, seeing as it was the middle of the night. But I brushed off that feeling and I got up from my bed. While I was tying up my hair, I heard her call me again. But this time it gave me an eerie feeling and it sounded different, like it was more deep than usual. So I went to my parents' room, and that's when I saw them both, my mom and my dad, who were fast asleep. I got really scared and then just went back into my room and started to read the Ayatul Kursi. It's a holy verse from the Quran to help with protection. But this person or spirit or whatever it was carried on calling my name. And every time it said my name, the voice would get deeper and louder. Eventually I started to cry because it creeped me out. But I laid down on my bed and tried to fall asleep, which I did eventually. In the morning, I told my parents about what had happened, and they told me it's probably just your imagination. Seeing as I was awake using my phone and I must have been tired, I also thought the same thing. So the next evening after sunset, I went outside to go get my laundry from the washing line. But when I was putting my shoes on, I looked up and I saw a lady standing next to a large tree in my backyard. Oh my God. The lady was looking down at the ground. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. And I tried to move, but I was stuck. That's when my mom saw me from the kitchen window and came to me. But the second my mom opened the door, the lady looked up at me, and that's when I saw her face. Her smile was from ear to ear, and her eyes were pitch black. She had then vanished out of thin air. I ended up fainting, and my mom took me inside, and when I woke up, I told them what had happened. They got really worried and went to an imam. That's an Islamic scholar, and he leads worshippers in prayer. And the same day he came to my house and got a nail and read the whole Quran and all sorts of du'as, which are prayers, on it, and he nailed it into the tree. That very night when we were all asleep, we heard all sorts of screaming and people shouting, "Help, help," or "Help us," and other types of screams. My whole family heard it and got very scared, but luckily it only lasted about 5 or 6 minutes. In the morning at about 8 a.m., we invited the imam over to our house, and he told us that he had done a bit of research and he found out that that tree that was in our backyard was a very big home to all sorts of jinns. Oh. I got very scared, but he said that they had all left now and that we were all safe now. But I am still so scared till this day, as if it would happen again. Anyways, send me more, guys. These are so good.
This girl woke up around 3 in the morning hearing voices when she saw these religious figures talking to her, and she was able to capture this short video.
You guys wanted part 2, here we go. So after the day I got disturbed at my workplace, I went for an outing with my friend. We went to a birthday party that is located at the villas that is at Bedok Home Team NS. The moment I entered the villa, I can already sense that the place is not right. Something sketchy about the place, but I don't know what it is. I tried to explore the place. I even went to the rooftop with my friend, and there's nothing about it. My gut feeling tells me that there's something there and you should get out ASAP. So after 2 hours being there, I felt uncomfortable already and I want to go home. I proposed an idea to my friend. Why not we go to karaoke? Everyone agreed and we went to karaoke together. We had fun singing and laughing in the karaoke. Now it's time to go back. When we get out from the karaoke place, we took a lift to go down. So when the moment the lift arrives, me and my friends, we entered the lift. I don't know why, I kept looking outside the lift until it closes. When the moment the lift almost closed fully, I saw a tall black shadow outside the lift passing by the lift door as fast as a lightning. So I was shocked. I looked at my friends and they were looking completely normal. So I was like, am I the only one who saw that? Fast forward, I already arrived at my house and there was no one in my house because during that time my parents were in Malaysia. So I opened my house door. Every time before I enter my house, I always say Assalamualaikum. Bear in mind, there's no one in my house. I was the only one that is entering. When the moment I said Assalamualaikum, at the back of my ear, I heard someone say Waalaikumsalam. Only God knows how scared I was back then. But I told myself, Lukman, it's okay. The more you are scared, the more they will come to you. So I just kept my cool enter my house, shower, I read whatever prayers I know. But I kid you not, during that night, I had a hard time falling asleep. Okay guys, so I know that you guys enjoy all of these ghost stories. If you guys have any ghost stories, feel free to DM me, and of course, I will share it to my viewers. Assalamualaikum.
Did you guys hear about that 911 operator who got a call at 3:30 in the morning from an abandoned funeral home? If you didn't, I'm about to play it for you. But please keep in mind, this is a funeral home where nobody is currently working. Cops drive by it later to see if anybody was there. It's abandoned, the lights are out, nobody's working. And you can just very faintly hear someone talking.
Hello, 911, this is Erica. How can I help you? Hello? Hello? Hello?
This right here is one of the creepiest and most disturbing stories you'll ever hear. It all started on the night of 30 December in the year 2000, where in this house right here, a whole family was... Yes, you heard me well. This family right here were in their own house, and if you're asking who did it and why the hell he did it, well, this is where the story begins. You see, on a random night, someone somehow found a way to enter the house, and when he entered, he stabbed the mother, the father, and the daughter. The only one left was this little guy right here who ended up just like them, but the difference is he was not stabbed, he was strangled. After what happened, police kicked in and they were like, okay, we need to find who did this as soon as possible. And when they started investigating, they found something shocking. They basically found out that the person who unalived the family stayed in their house for hours even after unaliving them. Yes, he literally unalived the whole family, but didn't run as soon as he did it like other cases. No, he stayed in their house, using their computer and eating their food. You know when you invite somebody to your house and then you tell him make yourself home and he takes it too literally to the point where he makes you feel like the guest? Well, that's what he did. Okay, so that's really messed up. A whole family got unalived in their home, but it's gonna get worse because the guy who did this was never found until this day. Yes, despite having everything they needed, the clues, the fingerprints and all that, they never found him. So at that time, police really got criticized. There were protests everywhere because what the hell you mean anybody can walk in inside your house, unalive your whole family and then get out? There is a theory that says that the one who did this personally knew the family, because otherwise I don't see why would they open the door. If you made it until here, then thank you for watching, and for those who don't know, I have a YouTube channel where I post long videos. All you gotta do is to type Mr. Nice Girls, and this right here, the first thing that pops up is not my channel. Whoever has this, please delete it, I'm begging you. So, this is my channel, you just go in, and here you are.
What if I told you I had a dead twin brother my whole life? And I'm not talking about a dream, okay? I'm talking actual encounters. This story is gonna make you question everything you know about life, death, and everything in between, bitch, okay? Hold on tight, because this is gonna get real fast. I grew up surrounded by death, but the first one I really felt was my twin brother. Yes, I am a surviving twin. My brother has been with me throughout my whole life, but only I can see him. Only I can talk to him, and only I can hear him. And I know that sounds crazy, but it only gets weirder, okay? Right before my mom miscarried my brother, her father passed away. 5 days later, my mom lost the baby. I was born, but I almost was not alive myself. I came into the world with blue, cracked skin, and I was barely breathing. The doctor said it was because I wasn't getting enough oxygen in the womb. And that is where I believe all of this started, okay? All right, now fast forward a bit. All right, I'm like 2 or 3 at this point. One day I walk up to my mom and I tell her, I have a brother. Now, at 2 or 3 years old, I did not know about my twin brother, okay? I was 2 or 3. What 2 or 3-year-old is gonna, like, understand that, okay? So I was not told about him yet. But when I told my mom that I had a brother, she froze. And she's like, describe him to me. I told her, his name is Cameron. He looks just like me, but he has curly hair. And he's a boy, Mom. Without missing a beat, my mom smiled and she said, yes, honey, you once did, and you still do. That's all she ever said about it, okay? But I kept playing with him growing up, okay? He was always there and he was so real to me. But it wasn't just him. I had another friend, okay? A little girl named Carrie. Now, at this point, we were living in a haunted apartment complex, and what we didn't know is that there was a portal there. All right, hold on. Stay with me, okay? I know how this sounds, but stay with me. My dad and uncle went to fix something in the basement, and that is when this activity started. I thought Carrie was another little friend to me, okay? But my mom had a bad feeling about it. My mom kept warning me and my older sister to stay out of the basement. Okay, and honestly, I thought Carrie was harmless. Spoiler alert. But one fateful night, everything fucking changed, bitch. I was there in my living room watching TV, and I heard the basement door creak open, bitch. Then all of a sudden, I hear this voice. Are you ready to play? Hell no, I'm not. Hell no, I'm not. Of course, I was curious, you know, as children are. And I figured if my mom was in the kitchen, it was safe, okay? I mean, my mom was right in the other room. What could go wrong? But that was a fucking mistake, okay? As soon as I went to the basement, the door slammed behind me, bitch. Wire chills on my legs. Oh, shit. And what came up those motherfucking stairs was not Carrie. It wasn't even a little girl, okay? What I saw was something out of a fucking nightmare, was something out of a fucking horror movie. And this is something that still haunts me to this day, and I'm sure it always will, because why do I have chills talking about it right now? Stuff like this, bro. Why do I do this to myself? I don't even know how to describe this properly, but just think of the most terrifying, dark thing. It looked just like that. Just like that. And my little ass was like, fuck no. Turned around, I start banging on the door, and I am crying, pleading for my mom to let me the fuck out. When she finally opened the door, she grabbed my ass, slammed the door back shut. She knew it wasn't Carrie. She knew. Why I tell stories like this in the dark. I live in the fucking sticks, bro. After that, shit got way worse, okay? Lies, random sicknesses, unexplained things were happening, okay? One time, I was thrown down the stairs by something I could not see. I remember telling my mom, Carrie did it. She knew it wasn't Carrie. Oh, my body! She knew it wasn't Carrie, bitch. My mom and my grandma tried everything to cleanse that apartment. Nothing at all. Nothing worked, okay? And eventually, we just moved and we got the fuck out of there. But get this, the family that moved into that apartment after us, the husband got sick, just like my sister, and he died. And that's just when we knew something was very wrong with this place. Fast forward to now. All right, I am 28 and I see spirits literally everywhere. And it's not just a random occurrence for me, it is a daily thing. I've also been through some crazy near-death experiences. In 2015, I almost died from a seizure. In 2017, I miscarried. When I miscarried, I lost so much blood that I just started seeing colors, and eventually that went white. Then nothing. I was gone. 2 minutes later, I woke up gasping for air. And I'm begging, like, at this point, please just take me. Just take me. I felt like I was in between two worlds. And honestly, it was just fucking terrifying. Now, I live in a apartment complex that was built on an 1800s cemetery. Now, these spirits, bitch, they were fucking relentless. They love to mess with everyone who lives here or has lived here or will live here, okay? They're gonna mess with everybody. Now, some of them I can help and some of them I can't. I have become so in tune with the dead that I can see them as they were before they died and sometimes after. They ask me for help crossing over, but I don't have the power to do that. And it's just really hard when they're begging you for help and you know you can't do anything for them. I mean, I love cemeteries, obviously, but I can't go inside of them because all of the voices are so overwhelming. The dead are constantly talking and it is a lot to handle. Sometimes I even feel them pass through me as if they've found peace. I'm just this veil between this world and the next. And it's so intense that sometimes I feel like I can't breathe for a few minutes and then everything goes back to normal. Being a bridge between the dead and the living is honestly so exhausting. It's like I'm the emotional, mental, physical path for these souls that need to cross over. But of course, not all of them find peace. Some are stuck, and that's when it gets, can you see? Some of them are stuck, and that's when it gets heavy. And the weight of all of it is just something I can't even put into words. And it's also a burden that only those that can experience it would understand. I know this sounds like out of this world and, oh, she's cuckoo, oh, she's this. Shut the fuck up, okay? This story was submitted to one of my new friends. On here, her name is Rose. I'm gonna tag her down below, so if you guys have experienced this or you need somebody to talk to, reach out to her. When she told me this, I had chills reading it just as much as I had chills making a story out of it. That's one thing I love. Like me, spooky season is all year round for me, okay? I love horror, I love scary shit, I love the paranormal, okay? I do. I can't help it. Something about it intrigues me. There are people who don't believe in the paranormal, okay? And if you don't, I think you're weird. And that's fine, because people who don't think people who do are weird. And that's fine. I'm a weirdo. I attract weirdos. It is what it is. You guys go check out Rose, follow her page, okay? And if you have questions, ask her. It makes me feel good that I make you guys feel comfortable enough to share these stories with me. And it just makes me feel good. And I love you guys so much for this. I'm off of here. Love you guys. Bye.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
So there was one day where this guy was walking home and he noticed that a dog was following him. This dog was huge, so he was a little bit scared, but then he noticed how the dog was really sweet to him. That dog ended up following him all the way home, and this guy was like, I think I'm gonna have a pet now, and brings him into the house. A few weeks passed and he still has this dog. You know, he's really happy. The dog got used to the home. He was really happy with his new dog. So one day the guy's friend was gonna come for a visit, and the friend is a witch. When the friend comes in and sees that dog, she immediately turns to, the guy and says, hey, I need to talk to you in private. Can we go outside? He of course agrees, and when he goes outside, the friend, the witch, asks, where did you get that dog from? And he was like, well, it was following me one day and now he's my pet. The witch tells him, no, that dog is a person. That dog is a nahual. Okay, pause. I'm gonna tell you the most basic thing that I know about what a nahual is. A nahual is a person who can shapeshift into an animal. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know too much about them, but if you're watching this and you do, leave it in the comments. But there's a lot more to it. Like, people believe that the shapeshifters were born with a certain animal that they can shapeshift into. And some people believe that if you tap into it, you can shapeshift into that animal. Some people say they're evil, some people say they're protectors. Again, this is just the most basic things that I know about a nahual. She starts explaining to him how bad it was that he literally invited the nahual into his home, into like being part of his family. She warns him that that dog will eventually become your owner. Worse things are yet to come, and that he needed to be very careful. The guy went back into his house, pretended like nothing was wrong, and so did the dog. Except for there was a point where he thought that he heard that dog talk, and that is when he was like, this is definitely a a nagual. Obviously, he goes to his witch friend and says, what do I do? The witch tells him that he has to take the nagual's life. And he was like, well, can you help me? And she was like, yeah, I'll help you. So they go into the house, they put the dog on a leash. The dog is still acting normal, like, you know, he's a dog and not a nagual. And they take him to the back of the house where there is like a forest area. They ended up tying the dog to a tree, and even then the dog was still chill. Nothing was wrong. He is a dog. The dog let him tie him up to the tree, and when they tie him up, he backs up, he looks at his friend the witch and says, now what? And she says, now you end his life. He had a pew pew with him, and he had to work himself up to do this because obviously, like, what the fuck, like, what am I doing? He walks up to the dog, puts the pew pew towards the dog, and shoots. Nothing happened. The dog was still there, looking at them after being pew-pewed. The dog didn't even flinch. The dog was still staring at them like, yeah, like, what did you think was gonna fucking happen? He literally backed away from the dog that should have not been alive still and looked at his friend and says, now what? And his witch friend was like, let's get out of here. They left the dog tied up to that tree and started walking away from them, just like leaving the whole situation. And it was then where they were walking away where they heard the following.
Hey, don't leave me here. Hey, come back. Don't leave me here. I'm your friend. Don't leave me here.
The witch friend looks at him and says, don't turn around. Don't look back. They went all the way home and left that dog still tied up to that tree. The following day, they decided to go back. When they went back, dog was not there. The leash was torn apart. He said that around the tree, there was like a lot of animals that had been torn apart, and says that he has not seen that dog again. He says that ever since that day when people start talking about naguales and things of that sort, he 100% believes everything that they claim and that they say. And he assures them that they are real, that what he experienced was real. Anyway, what do you guys think?
This is why you never joke around with the paranormal. Today we have a story that was sent in by one of my good friends, Kari. She is absolutely amazing. If you do not follow her, make sure to go check her out. Let's get into it. I have a handful of strange stories, but this one is always my go-to. It was the moment everything shifted for me. I've always been a spiritual person, fascinated by the supernatural and the paranormal. But up until this experience, nothing truly unexplainable had ever happened to me. This was around 2016 or 2017. My wife, then my girlfriend, had just moved in with me, and one night we got to talking about ghost stories and unexplained phenomena. I remember telling her I'd never experienced anything personally. She just looked at me and said, "You're lucky." Of course, I didn't leave it there. I told her I wanted something to happen. I wanted to know if any of it was real, ghosts, spirits, and the whole deal. My wife, who has had several paranormal experiences of her own, some of which I'll share another time, was not thrilled about my curiosity. She warned me not to invite anything in. At the time, we were living in a small one-bedroom apartment. That night, it was just the two of us, sitting in the living room, a cramped space that opened into the kitchen. From where we sat, we had a clear view of the fridge. On top of it sat a loaf of bread tucked toward the back right corner. It wasn't teetering on the edge or anything. Beside the fridge was our stove. As my wife was telling me one of her stories, I thought it would be funny, maybe even bold, to call out to the spirits. So I started saying things like, "I wish a ghost would try me. Come at me, ghost. Do something." My wife looked horrified. She kept trying to get me to stop. A part of me was genuinely scared, but the other part, maybe the bigger part, was still skeptical. I kept going, kept taunting. And then, suddenly the temperature in the room dropped. I felt the coldest breeze I have ever experienced in my life. Before either of us could react, we watched, eyes wide, as the loaf of bread flew off of the fridge. Not slid, not fell, flew. First it hit the stove, then hit the ground, like it had been yanked with force. I froze. My eyes snapped shut. Then I felt breathing right on the back of my neck. There was no one behind me. My wife was sitting across from me, and we were completely alone. Panicked, I ran straight to the bathroom, locked the door, and just broke down. I was crying, shaking, begging whatever I had provoked to forgive me. I was terrified. And let me be clear, I have never called out to a ghost again. That is freaking insane. That is so crazy. And hey, I mean, Kari, your wife tried to warn you. She did. So kudos to her, because People, I think, play around with this stuff thinking it's a joke or thinking that people that believe in the paranormal are crazy, but you never know. I mean, you might get lucky and nothing happens, but in instances like this is why you don't mess around, because stuff like this actually does happen. Thank you so much to Kari again for sending this in. My question for all of you is, have you ever experienced something like this where you were taunting and something crazy happened? And if you have a spooky story that you would like to send in, you can send it to my email here or send me a DM here on TikTok. Until next time, stay close to the light.
I had to turn on all my lights after reading this story. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and today I'm going to be talking about a story that I've been kind of putting off making the video for. And a huge driving factor on this, and now I'm going to be fully transparent about this. I'm not a fan of making videos about demonic things or demons specifically because every single time I've made a video, whether it's my personal experience or if it's someone else's, I hear things in either the background or in the audio and I have to reshoot it, something, every single time. I've also had instances where my dogs are growling at things that are not there, so you get the gist on why I'm a little hesitant to make videos about demonic things. But without further ado, let's get into it. The story comes from Lexi, who lives in West Virginia and lives in a very haunted house. She says that the hauntings started around the time when she was 6. Just for context purposes, she was 4 when her parents got a divorce, and her mom started seeing this man when she was around 6 years old, and shortly after, all of these hauntings started. And at first it was small occurrences, like her mom telling her to pick up her toys, so she would do so, and when they would come back, the toys would be scattered all across the floor. And she mentions during these instances, her mom and her both were afraid because they both knew that it was almost impossible for these things to be happening. But they continued to brush off these little noises, these little occurrences, because they could be coincidental. And Lexi says that this continued for 2 years before her mom's boyfriend moved in, and his parents actually lived down the street from Lexi's mom, where all of this stuff is occurring. And one night, Lexi, her mom, and her mom's boyfriend go down to his parents' house to have dinner. A couple of his cousins were over with their kids, and there was this little girl there who was like 2 years older than Lexi at the time, so little girl was 10, Lexi was 8. And when they were playing, this little girl just out of the blue says, "Did you know that there's an old woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs?" And at the time, she thought it was creepy, but she just kind of brushed it off, thinking that the little girl was just trying to scare her. A couple days later, her mom is walking up the stairs to use the bathroom, and Lexi just tells her mom, "Hey, little girl's name, said that there is a woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs." Her mom kind of turns around and is like, "Which bedroom?" So Lexi walks upstairs, gets to the door, and goes to look in and points and says, "This one." And as she does, she did in fact see a woman standing there, very pale, black hair, and a long nightgown. Lexi specifically said that it looked like it was from the early 1900s. And obviously upon seeing this, Lexi ran downstairs, and her mom was really confused until they got back to their house and she explained the entire situation. Lexi's mom's boyfriend was overhearing this conversation and asked her to describe this woman. And when she did, he then said that they had been seeing that same woman there for years. And this is where things take a turn for the worse. Lexi says from that point on, the encounters in her house that were once very small became very amplified and very scary. And she said specifically that many nights she would feel like there was something in the room with her, even more specifically watching her sleep. But again, she brushed it off because she thought she was just scared. Until she was having a friend sleep over, and her friend woke her up in the middle of the night to specifically tell Lexi that she had seen a woman looking at her from over the footboard, just like this. And Lexi thought it was a joke until her friend described the exact same woman she had been seeing. And I guess things get even worse, because after this instance, Lexi's mom begins telling her that she has been seeing her walk around the house when she is not home. She can hear Lexi talking when she is not home. And Lexi had been seeing this woman in mirrors, like when she's brushing her teeth, for example. And on top of this, and what I think is the scariest, Lexi would hear clapping when nobody else was home, and people talking when nobody else is home. And most recently, She tells me that they have 2 dogs and she brought one of the dogs into her room when she starts to hear the other dog whining and a woman talking to her dog. So immediately she opens the door, tells the other dog, like, Mom's home. The dog does not get up and greet her mom like he would normally do. And when Lexi walks out to go see her mom, she finds out that her mom is not home. Her car is not in the driveway and she is still at work. So again, she goes back in her room, closes the door. Clear as day, hears a woman say, "Come here, where are you?" And she can hear the dog go from whining to barking. So immediately, she thinks that someone has broken into her house. She locks her door, gets her softball bat out, and calls her mom to come home immediately. The dog she had with her began barking, and thankfully, her mom only works like 10 minutes away, so she rushed home. But during the time of her mom coming home, Lexi began to hear heavy footsteps coming towards her door. And Lexi specifically states that the energy felt so heavy, and when whatever was outside of the door got to the door, it got eerily silent, and the keychain she has on her door began swaying back and forth. Her mom then got home, found no one in the house, and Lexi believes that the spirit attached itself to her and followed them home and has not left. Because that last instance happened like 3 weeks ago. And before I get into anything else, I just have to pause and say I've had to cut a couple of things out because I was hearing banging noises on my wall. And if you don't know, now you do. I either film early in the morning or late at night. I do this because then I don't have to worry about outside noises or my neighbors being awake, etc. So I don't know, and it's furthering the I don't like making videos about demons kind of thing. What really freaked me out was the clapping and obviously the lady looking over the footboard. I don't like that. And I swear I can almost see her face when I'm talking about this. And when I read it the first time, I could see her. But anyways, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
Alright, I'm scared. This TikTok creator who calls himself Jim Bob, and I'll go ahead and I'll tag him below, tells a story about the time that he worked at a morgue. And if this would have happened to me, my soul would have left my body. So he says that he worked at a morgue for about 10 years, and this is the scariest thing that he saw. He says that his job was to clean up the body, clean up the face, make it look presentable for their family to come identify. And this one body, he noticed that her eye was twitching. So he goes, he lifts her eyelid, and there is a maggot in her eye. So he says that he's trying to remove it, and it's literally trying to embed itself even further into her eye. So he grabs tweezers and is concentrating on trying to remove this maggot. And he says that he's about an inch away from her face. He says that her mouth slowly opened as far as it could go. Like that. So he freaks out. He steps back, and then the ugliest noise comes out. Kind of like, oh, hell no. So he runs out, goes and gets his boss, explains what happened. They come back and he says that everything was back to normal and that his boss didn't believe him and she sent him home. Again, he worked there for 10 years and he never went back after she sent him home. He was done. What would you do if you were to see something like this? I'm telling you, my soul evacuated immediately. What do you guys think?
If you're listening to this story and your dog or your cat or your pet is next to you, go to another room. Go to another room. Do it. Just do it. Now, don't say I didn't warn you if shit gets weird and maybe your dog starts talking to you. Anyway, if your pet is still here, hi, how you doing? This guy says that he has only shared this story with a couple of people because when he has shared it, people think that he's lying, it's made up, or that maybe he just imagined things. The reason why he's also very comfortable sharing the story is because he has started hearing other stories from people who have experienced similar things, so get ready for this. This guy says that he got home from work very tired. However, his dog Zeus was super excited to see him, started jumping up and down, which was kind of Zeus's sign saying, hey, take me out for a walk. He admits that he didn't have the energy to take him out, but he did because he cared about his dog's health and he took him to a dog park. He says that Zeus is very well behaved, so he doesn't have a problem getting him off the leash and letting him run around. He has never attacked a kid or a person, nothing of that sort, so that's why he's very comfortable letting him loose. Now he's like, please don't judge me. I know I shouldn't let him off the leash, but I promise I'm responsible. I bring doggy bags. Zeus listens when I tell him to come. He has never been aggressive, so, you know, again, he trusts Zeus. So while Zeus was playing and running, he went to go sit at a bench, and he said that he notices that every time Zeus would run, he would look back, find him, and be like, okay, he's still here. Goes back to play. He would stop, make sure that he was still sitting at that bench just waiting for him. It was in that moment when a little kid came up to him when he was sitting at the bench. He noticed that the little boy was looking at Zeus and he was smiling, just seeing Zeus jump up and down and run. He says that the little boy turned to look at him and asked him if that was his dog. He turns to look at the kid and he's like, yeah, that's my pet. His name is Zeus. And that's when the little kid says something that shocked him. The little kid said, you know that your dog talks, right? He says that the little kid was so tiny, he didn't want to crush his imagination, so he just nodded yes. Like, yep, I know that Zeus can talk because, you know, what are you going to tell a little kid? No, he doesn't talk. That's when the little kid turned around, almost like to walk away, still with a smile on his face, and he says, my dog told me that your dog was just like him. At this point, he was like confused, but also very curious. And he tells the little boy, well, how could you know any of this? And the little kid simply just said, well, why don't you ask Zeus? Cool. If he's the type of dog that talks, then he's gonna give you a response. The kid then says, because not all dogs can talk, they're not all like that. The kid turned around and left. He turned back to look at Zeus, and he could tell that Zeus was watching him. Almost like if Zeus knew that they were talking about him. And then when Zeus noticed that he was looking at him, he just kept walking and running like if nothing happened. Oh my god. When they returned home, he said that what that little boy said just stayed in his head. And he was playing around. Obviously, like, it was a little kid. He's not gonna believe that. So in a joking manner, he turns to Zeus and says, can you talk? Immediately, Zeus's attitude, mannerisms changed. He says that Zeus stared into his eyes for like a minute, and then he just turned around. He went walking towards his doggy bed and he just laid on it. Okay, that's cool, that's fine. Oh my god, I was scared. He was like, what the fuck just happened? Because he says that Zeus is not this like serious of a dog. Like, he's always hyper, he's always jumping. The way that he looked at him, turned around, went to his dog bed and just stayed there, threw him off. However, he was like, okay, whatever, that was weird, but maybe it's just what that kid told me that's making me feel even more weirder. So he simply went to bed and he went to sleep. So again, he ends up falling asleep, and he says that he was deep into his sleep when he got awoken by a sound of something falling in the kitchen. He immediately gets up and with precaution walks towards the kitchen. He turned to see if Zeus was in his doggy bed and he wasn't there, so he didn't know where Zeus was. He thought to himself that maybe Zeus also got woken up, and he went to the kitchen to see what was that sound. When he gets to the kitchen, he notices that everything's in its place. There's nothing on the floor. Like, what made that sound? He has no idea. However, the strange thing was that Zeus wasn't in the kitchen either. So he called out for Zeus, and very calmly, Zeus comes out of this like empty bedroom that he has. He says that Zeus looks at him, didn't even get close to him, and just went to lay down on his doggy bed. Almost like if he was someone that Zeus didn't know, or that maybe he didn't even care about. Anyway, following day, he goes to work, he gets home, opens the door, and Zeus is not there greeting him like every other day, where he's jumping up and down excited, wanting him to take him to the dog park. Zeus was nowhere to be found. So obviously he was in shock, and he calls out to Zeus, because at this point he's like, what if he's sick, or what if something's going on? So again, Zeus comes out of that empty bedroom, looks at him, and at this point he's trying to get Zeus excited. He gets his leash and he's like, look, you want to go to the dog park? And Zeus looks at him, doesn't get close to him again, and goes and lays down on his doggy bed. To him, he says it was evident that something was happening to Zeus, so he calls a friend who was a veterinarian, and he tells them, look, these are the symptoms, he's not coming, he's not excited, and his friend thought that maybe it was because of the age. He didn't believe that it was that because Zeus's energy like switched just overnight. However, he really loved Zeus and wanted Zeus to be healthy, so he did make an appointment to see the veterinarian the following day. That day they didn't go to the dog park, but he did go to sleep just worried about Zeus and hoping that it was nothing serious and that he was going to be fine. As he's laying there thinking about Zeus, he says that he could hear that someone opened the front door, and after that door was opened, it sounded like somebody was walking. He got really scared because he can clearly hear footsteps, inside of his house, and he hadn't fallen asleep yet, so he knew that it was like very real. He wasn't dreaming or anything like that. He said that he had a sword next to his bed, so he just grabbed that sword and quietly came out of his bedroom. The house was dark, but that he could still see that the front door was indeed opened. However, there was nobody in his house and not even the trace of Zeus. He honestly couldn't believe it, but he was like, what if Zeus opened the door and escaped? But he thought that that didn't make any sense because the door was locked, like you physically had to unlock it. As he's walking out of the hallway, he then starts to hear footsteps behind him. He said that he was like in shock, but when he turned around to try to look, he saw like a shadow of somebody just run past him and outside that front door. He screamed for Zeus to help him because he was scared and he didn't know what to do. That thing passed so fast, not even the sword could help him. Zeus never came. He never came. He wasn't in that empty bedroom. He wasn't laying on his dog bed. Zeus never came out. So he immediately closes the front door and locks it up. After locking it, he stepped away from the door, and that is when he started hearing something trying to open that door back up. He said that he noticed when they couldn't open it back up, so then they started kicking the door. That is when he screams like, what do you want? Who are you? What do you want from me? If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. And the thing that he heard back was somebody laughing, almost like laughing at him. And that is when he heard a voice telling him,
Alfredo, you wanted to know if I could talk. The answer is yes. And not just that, I can do so many other things.
And then it banged on the door, and he heard when the steps were walking away from his house with a very terrifying laughter. Everything stayed calm. However, he was shaking with fear, and he stayed up the entire night until morning time, and that's when he finally got the courage to open that front door. The door was full of scratch marks. Ever since that day, Zeus disappeared, and he has never seen him again. However, when he goes to sleep in his bedroom, he swears that he can hear Zeus inside of the house. When he comes out, there's nothing there. Even when he gets home from work, he swears he can hear Zeus's steps, almost like when he would get excited and run to the door, but nothing is there. He doesn't know if maybe it's just like his memories or if Zeus really is coming to visit him from time to time. But what do you guys think?
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely...
Okay, so I have a couple stories, but there's one main one that I will never forget. It will always freak me out. And it happened in my house when I was in high school. So I'll share the first story that led up to this main event, and then I'll talk about what really happened. So basically, I was in the 6th grade and I was having a sleepover with my friend, and I had no idea what a Ouija board was. No one's ever told me. This was early 2000s at this point. And I just wasn't educated on it. And so, of course, me being a 6th grader, thinking it was a board game, I'm like, yay, board game. Let's try something new, And so we were playing it. Nothing was really going on. We were asking some silly questions like, oh, who am I going to marry when I'm older, And it wasn't really saying a whole lot. But looking back on it, something that kind of freaks me out is when we asked who we were talking to, it went to a Z. And I'm not going to talk any further on that. If you know, you know. And so we went upstairs to go get some, water, some snacks, stuff like that. My parents asked me, what are you guys doing downstairs? And we say, we're playing the Ouija board. And my parents are like, nope, absolutely not. You are not playing that. Please stop doing that. And so we went downstairs, we closed it up, and what followed after that freaked me out. So we heard some voices that night, nothing crazy, honestly. It wasn't like the super dramatic thing. But for years, I started hearing voices. I started seeing some things like people calling out my name in the middle of the night. I saw something in my closet, just random things here and there. I vividly remember when I was younger. This was middle school now. I don't remember the exact time, but my siblings were, young, and we were home alone. My parents were traveling that day. And so they were coming back home. We were alone. Our babysitter had left, and we all, for some reason, looked down to the right. And so that's where our hallway was. And we had a really long extended hallway. And then our parents' doorway was facing where that hallway was. And so we all look over at the same time. It was the weirdest thing. And we see this man, like this really, really tall man standing there. And all of us say nothing. And we see this man turn and walk down the hallway. And so I look at them and I'm like, did you see that? And they're like, yeah. And I don't know what made us do this, but we went throughout the house and started trying to find if there was a man in the house. And if you've seen any horror movies, it's definitely not what you're supposed to do. Like, don't do that. But for some reason that was, the mindset at the time. And we searched everywhere. Nothing was there, so there was no man. And we start moving on knowing that, we had just seen some random dude in our house and he disappeared. And so for years after that, nothing crazy really happened. Again, sometimes I'd hear somebody walking in the house when I was home alone or like in the middle of the night, but I just ignored it, tried not to give it any mind. But this is where the main event happens. So my brother passed away when I was in high school, and he lived in Tennessee with, my other family. My parents are, not together. So that side of the family, told me the news, and I went out and, flew out for the funeral. And so the day after the funeral, when I was flying home, my stepmom had lost her keys. And I went into her bathroom. She sets things in weird places. So she told me to look in her bathroom, look in her closet just to see if she dropped it, try to find, where the keys are so we can leave and go to breakfast together before I have to get on the plane. And I don't know what it was, but I felt such a difference in the air. Like the atmosphere went cold. I can't describe it. But if you've experienced something like this, it's a very eerie feeling. I felt like I was isolated, even though there were 3 other people in the house, but I was alone in that room. And all of a sudden I felt like metaphorically cornered in the closet. And I heard my name being called with my brother's voice. And it's like time stopped. I knew it wasn't him because I thought that if it really was him, I wouldn't be freaked out. I wouldn't be feeling such a dark, gross feeling. Mind you, I'm already emotional because, I loved my brother and he had just passed away. And so hearing his voice was like weird. And it was emotional for me. And I ran out of that room because I felt like whatever was talking to me was not him and it wasn't safe. So I ran out, and my stepmom had been calling for me for 10 minutes and I didn't hear her. So literally, it's like time had stopped. So I told them about this at breakfast, and they're like, oh, I wish he would talk to me. And I'm like, but it wasn't him. Like, this is the weird thing. It wasn't him, right? And so I go home, months go by, nothing happens. I'm grieving my brother, I'm sad. And I talk to him sometimes, at that point. I still do, but, at this, during this story, I was talking to him sometimes, and whatever it was that talked to me at my stepmom's house followed me to my house in Minnesota. So I was in Tennessee. That's where the first event happened. I'm back in Minnesota at my mom's house where, the Ouija board thing had happened. We're keeping that in mind. So I go to bed one night. I'm the only one that lives upstairs, right? And so that's where the front door is. My bedroom at the time was right next to the front door. And so we had a staircase going downstairs, and that's where my parents and my siblings were. My mom would stay upstairs in the kitchen, dining room area until, sometimes later in the night. just getting projects done. She's a very crafty person. So I went to bed knowing that she was, you know, kind of within the vicinity. I felt safe. And what I did was I always closed the doors and closed the blinds before I went to bed because, you know, I had experienced some things. I was a little freaked out. And I had already some nights experienced sleep paralysis. And, you know, I was already kind of on edge about that. So close all the blinds, close the doors. And I had my radio on and I start, you know, kind of dozing off and my radio sounds slower and like distorted all of a sudden. And I'm like, something's about to happen. And it did. So I felt like I heard the doors opening, but I was like, no, I'm going crazy. Like there's nobody else that would be, but it was both doors, like my closet door and my door to my bathroom that I heard opening. And I'm like, there's not two people in my room. Like there's no way. And I didn't even hear my room door open, the main door. And so I can't get up. It's like I am, you know, I'm in sleep paralysis. I can't do anything. I can't talk. I can't open my eyes. I can't move. And all of a sudden I feel myself getting up and I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't me. And so I feel myself get out of bed, like, but I don't feel like I'm in control of my own body. And I feel myself like, you know, reach my hand out for my door. And I feel the doorknob. I start, you know, opening my door. And all of a sudden I hear my brother's voice come from my bathroom and him saying, Maddie, I need to talk to you. And I don't know how, but somehow, some way I was able to talk in that moment. And I'm like, no, get out. Like, I know this isn't you. I don't want to hear it. And I don't know what it was, but it was like, okay, I'll leave. Like, okay, you'll leave. Okay. But here I am, like kind of traumatized because, you know, it's my brother's voice again. And I'm still grieving. Like this is only a couple months after he passed. And so I'm like, well, what if it was my brother? And I carried on that guilt for so long thinking like, well, what if it was him? Like, but it was that creepy feeling again. And I'm like, you know what? If this was really my brother, there is no way that he would do this to me, that he would like freak me out, that he would like try to do all this stuff. Like, there's just no way. I feel like he would come and try to peacefully talk to me and have a conversation. But, you know, that's a whole other conversation. And so I opened my eyes, like after I muster enough courage, you know, I open my eyes and all my doors are open. All of them. And nobody was upstairs. My mom is already fast asleep at this point. It was like midnight. And I know this story sounds crazy, but this really happened and it still freaks me out to this day. And I don't know.
Can we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
This chilling video has already shocked millions online. In it we see two teenage girls, Sarah and Layla, live streaming to their followers. They are cousins living somewhere in South America. At first everything seemed normal. The girls were chatting with viewers, sharing stories and joking around. But then something strange began to happen. Suddenly the chat started flooding with messages. What's happening with Sarah? Why is she looking at Layla like that? Layla looked at her cousin and realized the viewers were right. Sarah had gone completely silent. She just sat there staring at Layla with a disturbing expression. Layla nervously asked what was wrong, but Sarah didn't respond. The more she tried to snap her out of it, the scarier it became. Layla begged her to stop joking, saying it wasn't funny anymore, but Sarah kept her gaze locked. Finally, Layla panicked and left the room. Sarah remained still, slowly turning her eyes toward the camera, staring straight into it, and that's when it got truly terrifying. When Layla returned and tried one last time to reach Sarah, something happened that no one watching will ever forget.
I'm about 17 years old, and you know, rumors spread about this place. Like, oh, this is one of the spots to go to if you want to get spooked out, and you know, it's one of the haunted places in the area. So, you know, think back 2016 summertime, okay? Me and my friends we go out and we're like, you know what? Let's go head up this place. Let's go see if it's actually creepy. So it took us a while to get there, and this road has no streetlights. It is one of those roads where you need your brights on because, yeah, you can't see anything. It's just pitch dark. And there's woods on either side. And this bridge is on this road, and you drive under the bridge, and that is the spot that everyone talks about, is this bridge. So we get there, and we're already creeped out. One, because it's just completely dark. There's no lights, there's no nothing. And if you were to continue down that road, it would lead into a neighborhood, but it was still dark, still no street lights till a certain point. And so we get out of the car, and our dumb selves decide, you know what, let's go on top of this creepy bridge. And so on the top of this bridge is an old road that's no longer being used by the public. So we decided to just go walking on it because, why not? And there's this sign up there that had pew-pew holes in it. And we were just like, oh, that's so stupid. Someone came out here and, shot up the sign. And we were like, let's just continue walking in the dark by the woods. So we're walking around for probably 5 to 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden, the woods, they go completely silent. You know how during the summertime, the woods are just alive with sound? Crickets, birds, frogs. It's just really noisy. Cicadas, like there's just so much going on. Well, it was one of those times where we're all just talking, and then one by one we stopped talking because the woods got quiet. And my friend goes, why did it get so quiet? And we're all standing there, and then we hear to the left of us footsteps in the woods. Just feet away, we hear footsteps. So we start booking it the other way. All of us start running because we have absolutely no clue why the woods got so silent. Usually that is just not a good thing. So we ran all the way back to the top of the bridge, and we got back to the top of the bridge. Didn't seem like anything was following us. But then when we got to the car, we walked back down to get in the car because we're all spooked, and then we hear crying. Someone was, or something was crying, and it sounded like the weeping crying, when you have like your hands over your face, like it was muffled crying. And we're all sitting there for a second. All of us are hearing this. It's not just me. And listen, I've seen enough horror movies, okay? I'm not going to be the stupid one. And neither were any of my other friends. We're like, yep, time to go. Let's get out of here. Let's go and get in the car. So we all pile in, and we start driving away from the bridge back home. And as we start to drive down this road, there's this truck that comes up behind us. And he's got his brights on, and he's tailgating us. And he is, like inches away from the vehicle we're in. And all of us are we're getting pissed off. We're like, oh my gosh, this guy's such a jerk. We tried to move over, and then he just moved over with us. Like, we were trying to let him around, and or her, we don't really know. And no, just being a total jerk. And then we reached the end of the road to where this the stop sign is, and then the lights behind us go off, and we're like, oh, finally. And this guy turned his brights off. And then we turn around. I'm not driving, but me and my friends turn around, and there's no truck. There's nothing. No truck, no lights, nothing. And this is a road that is forest on either side, okay? And it's one way this way, one way that way. There's nowhere this truck would have gone. So we're all freaking out at this point, because we're like, we heard footsteps in the woods, we heard crying, and then a truck was basically chasing us, and now it's just disappeared. So now we're really we're freaking out. Like, and as one should. I feel like this would be a normal reaction. But then, of course, we all end up getting home safe. The truck never reappeared. But this is where it gets crazy. We ended up doing a little bit of research when we got back home because we were like, what the heck? What the heck did we just experience? Not only are we not the only ones that experienced a ghost truck, we also weren't the only ones who have heard crying. And the supposed crying is coming from something that had happened a long time ago, where there was a slave woman and her child was thrown off of this bridge intentionally by her owners. And then we found out that the crying is most likely like her, that's what they suppose. And then someone had jumped off of this bridge before. And then we found out something happened the day, or I should say the night before we were actually there. We found out on the news the next day that someone had gotten murked with a pew-pew literally the night before we had gone there. Those bullet holes that we saw on the sign, that's what it was from. And to this day, we never went back there.